Good morning, everyone. I thought I would share with you my thoughts as we're emerging from our COVID lockdown. So I'm not sure about you, but I have gone through such a wide range of emotions in the last 3 months. If I'd have been told this time last year what was to come, I don't think I would have believed anyone. Who would have thought that an average week would consist of this new working regime, homeschooling at the same time, a little bit of hairdressing thrown in, and complete reliance on the home Wi-Fi. And just a little bit of extra thing to throw in, you must socially distance from the ones you actually spend the most time with. I think in years to come, we're actually going to look back in this time and think we coped reasonably okay for the most part. So now that the lockdown rules are relaxed more and we're being released into the community, I wonder how it's going to work out. Are some people going to just go completely wild? Are some of us going to gently flow into the new normal? It's hard to know. I would imagine it will be closely related to how those people feel at that time, what their feelings and emotions are. So my plan is to try and be as sensible as possible. And I'm going to try to not let my feelings consume or direct my behaviours, because I know my feelings are temporary and quite often unreliable. The Bible teaches us that emotions and feelings can sometimes warp our senses of right or wrong, and sometimes they actually create a bigger gap between us and God. And I think it's important to note that God and Jesus also have the same emotions that we do, but the difference is in how we respond, because they don't respond out of selfish desires or selfish needs, but quite often we do. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for everyone. For me, the key is going to be to lean on God's direction and definitely not my own. So I've recently been reading a book in the Bible called Jeremiah. This book is in the Old Testament, and it's in a selection of books otherwise known as the prophets. So the prophets were God's ambassadors in the world, and they were primarily preachers. They foretold of what was to come, particularly in times of unrest, and they had a small amount of prophecy around further times, much, much further in future. So Jeremiah was one of these prophets, and he lived in Jerusalem about 600 years before Christ was born. And God spoke to him and said these words: I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. And I love that verse because it tells us how God planned him. It tells us how God thinks things through in advance, and that everyone is placed here to be part of something. Jeremiah's book tells the people of how their focus is currently wrong, how they had essentially lost their identity, and how they needed to change their ways. But he also had a beautiful message of hope in his book, and he was urging the people to focus on their heart, to get their heart right with God. And he said that the heart was the centre of will, not emotion. And he marries up how getting your heart right with God, looking to God and leaning on God, was going to lead these people who were in great difficulty. It was going to lead them to a new future, which I think is like their new potential normal. And isn't that where we're at right now? I sometimes reading the books of the Old Testament can be a little bit tricky, but I think they're as relevant now as they were then. And you might not have time to read this book, so I'm going to give you my favourite verse from it. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And this verse tells us of God, what God has for us and what God wants for us. It doesn't say that everything's going to be a bed of roses and all wonderful and fabulous like a Doris Day film. It just shows us what he has ready for us. Just like when he had planned us even before we were formed in our mother's womb. So as we make our plans to emerge into the new normal, my hope is that we all look to God and that we're led by Him and Him alone. Sending you many blessings from my home to yours.
God, I look to you, and I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision to see things like you do. God, I look to you, 'cause you're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom, 'cause you know just what to do. And I will love you, Lord, my strength. I will love you, Lord, my shield. And I will love you, Lord, my rock. Forever all my days I will love you, God. Oh God, I look to you, and I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision, oh, to see things like you do. God, I look to you, 'cause you're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom, oh, you know just what to do. And I will love you, oh Lord, my strength. And I will love you, Lord, you are my shield. And I will love you, oh Lord, my rock. Forever all my days I will love you. Oh yes, and I will love you, oh Lord, you are my strength. And I will love you, oh Lord, my shield. And I will love you, oh Lord, my rock. Oh, forever all my days, oh, I will love you, my God. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Oh, hallelujah, our God reigns. Forever all my days, hallelujah. Sing it out. Oh,